Okay. So I really appreciate you meeting me on here for this. I guess like I kind of was looking at having more conversations with people, engaging with people more, and also finding ways that we could share some of the things that we know, as far as like personal growth and development or consciousness or energy work and healing and our personal journey and just what that looks like. Because there's so many times that I have all these like really awesome conversations with people and I'm like, man, I wish I had recorded that and like I wish I could share that, you know. And there's a lot of times that, like I want to create my own recordings and like share them with people, but then like I feel like when I show up I'm not like being myself and I'm not authentic, and that is definitely not what I want to put out in the world. So I appreciate your willingness to jump on here with me, and I feel like your name popped as somebody to bring on because you're just so awesome in so many ways and you have so much to share. And I know that just from what I know about you, like sometimes it can show up like where we're like, okay, how do I share this? What do I, how do I make this something that's more visible or seen for people? Um, so yeah. So I figured what this will look like is we wrote down some questions that we can just ask each other and just kind of go from there. The questions are just something to land back on if we want to kind of guide the conversation a little bit more. But I think where I want to begin, if it's cool with you, is I want to know more about like what you think your life journey has been, that makes it unique. Like what's different about your journey?
Oh, wow.
I know.
So, yeah, so growing up, I lived in a house that had a lot of like paranormal activity in it. And so I feel like that kind of took me on a little bit of a different path, just because I was being aware of unseen kind of things going on. And I had a little bit of a rough childhood too. Um, and so I feel like I have, all of these elements of like overcoming like these traumatic experiences, but also moving through different paranormal things in my life. And it's kind of guided me into the space that I am in now. Um, And I feel like, looking back on my life, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I could write, like, 5 books of all of the things that I have
Yeah.
been through and navigated and experienced," um, and I feel like now I'm kind of moving into, like, more of the peaceful era of my life, and learning different techniques and ways, to kind of navigate through that trauma and try to, unbury myself from it and become a little bit lighter. And in doing so, I feel like it's also shaped my journey and helping others using the tools that I used for myself to kind of get out of darker places. To help others now and kind of and feel like I'm still learning, and with every person I kind of work with, I'm still kind of learning like, oh, these different aspects of things and stuff. So
Yeah. When you grew up, did you and you had like the activity in your house, did you feel like what was the general like message from your parents, or like, how did they deal with it, and like how did that make you feel? Was it scary, or was it kind of like, oh, there's John again, he's opening the cabinets?
yeah. Yeah. My dad, he just tried to ignore it and kind of be like, "Oh, it was just something weird happened, but it's, there's probably a reason, I just don't know." But my mom, she was very much like giving kind of animation to the spirits, because there was different ones. So
Mm.
some kind of were a little bit meaner, but some were kind of more mischievous, would hide things. And then there was a woman who would, kind of have like baked goods. So sometimes we'd smell brownies or cookies or something like that baking, or we could smell her perfume. Um, and so we're kind of just like, oh, that's the lady that smells good. Oh, that's like the kind of creepy old guy. Oh, that's like the mischievous, child spirit that's kind of hiding and playing games and things like that. So we kind of had both experiences. Now that my dad's retired and he's in the home more, he's kind of had some things that's been undeniable, that he's not been able to really, kind of pass off as like, oh, that's just something else. So it was definitely interesting growing up, but I tried to not have fear with them, because I was like, oh, well, this one's really nice and this one's really playful, and they all kind of had different kind of personalities with them. So
Yeah. And how do you think that like, because what I get with it is that everything that occurs in our, upbringing is actually, contributing to, I mean, it always kind of like unfolds in ways that we just don't expect. And now it's part of, the practice that you utilize in like helping others. So I guess I'm just curious, like, how do you, with what you learned and what you gained, like from that childhood, how is it applied to your life, and how do you, utilize those tools in what you do on a daily practice in healing and helping others?
I feel like it's helped me drop the fear around ghosts and spirits and things like that. A lot of people are afraid if they see something move, or they, get weird sensations. They kind of have more of this fear, scared reaction, where I feel like growing up with it, I'm like, oh, they're just different people with different personalities, and that's not so scary to look at. Um, and so again, like if I'm working with clients and things like that, and I kind of notice um, spirits or things around them, I don't automatically just go into fear with it. It's more of like an awareness of like, okay, what's going on? Are you here to contribute? Are you harming this person? Do you need to move on? Do you know that you're gone? And it's kind of helped me navigate that a little bit easier, with not being afraid of the unseen and the unknown.
Yeah, and what's so cool about that is like there's constant questions, and I love that. you know it's because to me it's like whenever we're in that space of questioning, we're opening the doors to really listening to what's possible rather than being in conclusion. When you're in conclusion or you're in fear, you're shutting down those things rather than being open to all the possibilities. And if you're not willing to ask a question and just kind of be with like, okay, what is this showing me, or what's here that I can discover? I don't know, I just feel like questions are so powerful, and they can open the doors to so many things, awarenesses, and yeah, there's so many things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I would kind of like to know, like, what piqued your interest in energy work? Like, what was the spark that kind of
Yeah.
made you want to experience that?
Yeah, I guess for me, my journey started when I was dealing with PTSD. And I say dealing with, but I actually wasn't. I had a lot of situations where I did not feel safe, and I didn't feel empowered to just go about my daily life. And so I tried Reiki as a just let me just see if this works, because I was just trying so many different things. And after literally just one session, there was just so much that shifted and changed. And I don't know, like I just felt like there was a new space within me that was coming forward, and I didn't have to be at the effect of all of that anymore. And I really felt like a space of empowerment, which for me at that space in my life was really huge. And then it was just like I had just experienced so much change, And it wasn't like a difficulty, and it wasn't like I really had to do a whole lot of things. Like, and I didn't have to like recall all of the things that brought me into the PTSD. It was just kind of like I just lay down on the table, the treatment table, and had a session, and just everything shifted. And it really got me interested in, like, wow, like if this kind of change is possible and it can be easy, I wonder what else I can change in my life. And so I just kind of like began to dig a little bit into that, and I've been on a really huge personal self-growth journey ever since, and really looked at Reiki as kind of a doorway for me to dive into what some of my capacities are, and what I know about all of this spiritual growth and development, and things like that. So yeah. Wow. I don't know, the energy today. I feel like I'm all over the place. It's like I keep trying to like pull myself back in, and then it's like I fritz out again, and I'm like, ah. So some days are like this, right? And it just feels, I don't know, like it's like I'm like, okay, bring yourself back in and focus in, but then it's just like there's just so much happening. I find that I'm really aware of the collective sometimes, and it's I think that's another reason why I get hard on myself for how I show up. And really, I just, it's one of my greatest gifts. But at the same time, I'm like, if somebody doesn't, like, I need a disclaimer.
I'm going to be here, there, and maybe everywhere.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've been doing over the weekend, because there's all this like stuff, right, that I'm aware of, is, I've spent the whole weekend kind of clearing out some of the energy in my house, and I've been looking at what energies can I direct in my life, what do I, and it's interesting because when I started to ask that question, it was like, well, all of them, So I'm like, okay, well, so I'm not at the effect. I get to create my life. So it's like, well, what do I want the energy in my house to feel like? What do I want the energy in my car to feel like? What energies are here and present that I don't require anymore, that, I can send on for somebody else to use. So it's kind of like been energetic house cleaning. But I'm curious, like, what sort of techniques are you using right now just to kind of bring yourself into a space where you feel rooted or grounded?
So grounding's kind of hard in the winter months. They say go outside barefoot and it's cold and on my feet, and that doesn't feel very comfortable. So I've kind of had to adapt and change what I do for grounding. Sometimes I like to hum or sing. I feel like that kind of brings me back into my body. A little bit more. I like to spend time with my dogs. They go outside, their paws are on the ground, they're picking up those like free electrons. And then when I bring them back in the house and cuddle with them, they're sharing those with me. I also have found water to be grounding, which everyone's always like, oh, it's earth and dirt and all of those things. But I feel like when I feel into that more, it's like, well, the earth is the majority of water. So technically, when you ground, I mean, the earth, and you're connecting to the earth's elements is mainly water. So sometimes I'll just take kind of like a long shower, or even just drinking water, just to kind of help bring myself back into that, earth element. Sometimes I like to like breathe, just kind of get in touch with my breath. I
Isn't it
feel like,
crazy, like how we just like dismiss that one so much? It's just like,
yeah,
well, just breathe,
yeah. So when you have like conscious breathing, and you're bringing in deep breaths and you're exhaling deeply, that can kind of help calm and ground your nervous system as well. So those are kind of some of the like extra non-traditional ways that I like to kind of ground my energy. Do you have any other ways that you
Well,
like to
yeah, I mean,
ground?
I love that you said so many things that are just so easy, and things that like I feel like we do on a daily basis, yet if we do it with intention and with focus, it's has a whole new meaning, you know? Like it's kind of like we can sit there and drink a glass of water, but we can be somewhere else. Or you can drink a glass of water and connect to the earth. I love how you talked about connecting to the earth through water, because I find that like some of the best ideas that I have are coming through when I'm in the shower. And there's just something that's just like, I don't know, at the end of the day, just to cleanse all of the stuff that's like hanging out in my field, and just to kind of like feel a little bit more like myself, and just to have that space or that connection. To me, that's just a super powerful practice of just being present, being, you know, in the moment, like what you're talking about, like just breathing. You know, I think it really calls our attention back to being present in the moment of whatever's going on, and having intention and focus with it. And I think as I was cleaning the house over the weekend, that was kind of like the way that I was shifting and moving some of the energies, was by being with it, you know, like being present in my room and looking around, like, okay, what here could be shifted, or like what here isn't creating a great flow. And then in moving and shifting those things, or in cleansing and clearing them, or even like adding in crystals to my room, or flowers, or different colors. Like I changed the curtains in a couple of the rooms, and that just like changed so many things, because it's just like we don't realize how much our environment can affect us sometimes, and also just how much color can play into things. You know, like if on the days where I wake up and I'm like just feeling kind of like ugh, or like heavy, if I wear bright colors, then it's kind of like there's something that happens where it does lift how I perceive my frequency, because every time I'm looking at myself in the mirror, it's like, oh, there's a little bit of like more lightness. And then also people will see that light or bright color, and then it kind of like uplifts others too. So I find that a lot of energy management that I do just kind of has to do on looking at what am I choosing with like clothing and colors, and what am I choosing in my environment, and looking at ways to kind of shift and change that. I don't know, like for daily practices, for me, it just kind of comes down to like being present with the energies that I have in my surroundings and that I'm choosing, and then being a more conscious director of those. I know that recently I've been really like watching some things on the news, and it's good to have information. And I also noticed immediately after a couple of days of this, I was like, wow, my focus and my energy and attention is going in a direction that isn't supporting me right now. And it just made me realize, you know, with that awareness, okay, I need to direct this in a different way. Because if I keep going down that path and I get sucked into all of the things that people will say is significant, and I'm not looking at the beauty that's around me, and I'm not looking at where am I functioning from with it, and what's my point of view with it, and what can I create here, then I'm at the effect of it rather than choosing my reality. And that is not working for me. So I think that more and more, I think it's just having awareness of where am I directing my energy, and you know, how can we be aware of what's happening in the world but not be at the effect of it. So yeah, there was a question I had written about that for you. Let me, oh, um yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, I know that you've had a lot of changes with your body. And over the course of time that I've known you, I've noticed that there's just this deeper connection that you have. And even in scheduling with you today, you were like, well, I'm doing this thing with like fasting or something, is it right?
Yeah.
So you were like even adjusting it around that. And so I was like, that's so interesting. So I'm curious, first of all, about fasting, and what does that look like for you? And what sort of things have you done, you know, to shift your body? What does that look like?
So I kind of, when I started down the whole energetic path, everybody talks about mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. And I feel like, you know, during the different classes, I was working on clearing my mind, clearing my emotions, you know, working on, you know, getting a deeper spiritual connection. But then I kind of looked at my body and I was like, I'm not really nourishing and supporting my body the way that I am my mind and my emotions and my spirit. And I feel like, you know, that's part of the Trinity, part of the trifecta was, to get more in touch with your body. And I also feel like when you endure high levels of trauma, it's not safe to be in your body. So I wasn't operating in my body for a long time. It was kind of like when you play a video game and you kind of go above the player and you can kind of see above what they're doing, but you're not actually like first person view. And so as I started to, you know, learn different grounding techniques and bringing myself slowly more back into my body, I became more aware, like I'm not nourishing myself. I'm not strong. I'm not the healthiest that I could be. So I just started, I went to like a health coach and she kind of told me, you know, fasting for kind of what I was going through would kind of help kind of give my body a reset. And help take some of the weight and things off. And so I've fasted now. This is probably my 5th time of doing a fast, and I fast. It's been 6 weeks, but now I'm doing 8 weeks at a time.
So
And it's
what does that look like? I've never done fasting before. So I
so
know sometimes people like completely don't eat, right?
yeah.
And then other,
So it's more of like eating at specified times. So I fast for 16 hours at a time. Then I have an 8-hour window where I can eat. But the meals that I do eat, I try to make them like healthy, very low calorie type of meals. And then during the fast, you just have nothing but water. Um, so it's kind of like a time frame. I'm not like fasting and not eating anything at all. It's just that
yeah,
I'm for 16 hours, I have nothing. And that has also kind of gotten me more aware, more in touch with my body, paying more attention to it, asking my body, like, does this, you know, is this something that would help you or nourish you or take you in the direction that you're kind of looking for? And just bringing that element of like, my body, yeah, I am my spirit, but I'm also my body. My body is the vessel that my, you know, my spirit or my soul is kind of in right now. And so I also feel like my body is a reflection of my soul and my spirit. And so I want to take better care of my vessel while I'm here in this time, in this space, in this moment. Um, in my family, they have a lot of different health issues too, so that's kind of like helped push me, like, I see the road that they have went down, and I'm like, "Do I want that? I don't want that. I don't want, you know, that life and taking medicines and doing all of those things." So for me, if I can sustain my body, and prevent it from even receiving illness in the body, that's more ideal for me. So I've just been on this kind of like strong and healthy journey. So it's not just food, but also, you know, strengthening my body and working out and doing different movements that feels good for it to help, you know, just provide structure to myself. And also, it's very grounding to be physical, to do physical things. And so not being in my body for so long, I'm like, I need to do physical things to kind of reconnect back in. So that's kind of been my journey so far with it.
yeah. And I don't know, like, what do you find that helps you stay motivated? Because I think that that's the thing that I run across the most with like with clients and things with their body is that, you know, number one, they go into a lot of like judgment sometimes with things, and that always locks it in place. And so it sounds like you got into a space of like question with it, but then also it's kind of like, you know, what is it that, I mean, I guess for you it was the drive shoot for or have something more in your life, and to shift something that maybe was a pattern that you saw within your family that you were like, yeah, no, this stops with me. And I think that's extremely powerful.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like too, it's taking like small steps
Mm,
towards things. Because if you're just like, oh, I'm just not gonna, I'm used to eating all of these things and now I'm not gonna have any of them,
yeah.
your mind gets overwhelmed with that. So like, when I first kind of started down the journey and was like, no more soda, no more fast food. And I just kind of like started escalating what I was removing.
Yeah.
So then when I went to doing the fast, it was a smaller step. It wasn't such a giant leap from where I was. And when I started going to the gym, I went less time. And now I've, slowly over time, I've increased how long I'm there and what I'm doing and increasing the weight. And so I feel like a lot of it is just taking like these small incremental steps of like, I'm not gonna buy candy anymore. I'm not gonna have that in the house. I'm not gonna buy potato chips anymore. I'm not gonna have that around. Reducing your temptations, but also doing it in a way that doesn't feel like you've lost everything all at once. Because I feel like that would be the hardest thing, is like just removing everything and not having it, as in just giving yourself a time limit, like, okay, at the end of this week I'm not doing this anymore, and at the end of next week, and or 2 weeks, however long it feels right for people to do that kind of thing. But I feel
Yeah.
like that's my best advice to people, is to just start removing little things and to start adding more movement. So just reducing a little bit of food or a little bit of sugar or a little bit of intake, and just increasing physical activity, even if it's just, I'm going to walk around the block.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to just start walking around the block every day when I get home, and then just start adding in more productive things. It's less overwhelming in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that every change begins with a single choice, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing all at once, like I think that sometimes we can look at, like if I'm looking at where you are now and all the things that you do, and I'm like, oh well, I want to create that change with my body too. It might be a huge jump to go from where I am to where, I think that I should be if I'm looking at you. But at the same time, when you're talking about taking smaller steps, it does feel like those are just some small conscious choices that you can make. Like, just for today, I'm not doing potato chips, like, and it's just like starting there and choosing, from there. And I love how it's just like it's adding in. It's not necessarily about like cutting out all of the things, but it's just like what can you add to your life that makes it greater. And I think that this really applies, like not just with food and our relationship with food, but um, with everything in life, right? Like your journey sounds kind of similar to how I jumped into being vegetarian, and it kind of just began with like, let me just cut out fast food. And my big thing with that was really just wanting to have more high frequency foods in my diet, And I just felt like every time that I would eat fast food, it really wouldn't give me the energy that I required, and I just felt not in a good space, and I knew that my body wasn't loving it. So it's just little things like that when you begin to have awareness of what a choice is creating, and then you can look at, okay, I'm choosing it, but then it's just like little steps, right? It doesn't have to be all at once. And I feel like that over time these smaller choices become huge changes. And I like when I see like where you are today with your body, it's not necessarily about the outwards or a space of like, judgment with like how you should look or anything like that. But it's just the happiness that I see that comes through you, and the relationship that you have to your body. That's what I want to like shine light on here, because to me, that's the most beautiful thing that I've seen emerge through you, that I'm really like, yes, more of that. It's so awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like too, when you said like you'd go get fast food and then sometimes you'd feel kind of like heavy afterwards, something that I realized too, is when other people prepare your food, their energy is going into your food.
Yeah.
So if that
Um,
person is going through some hard, heavy stuff, or they're having a bad day, or they're like, I don't want to be here, that energy is kind of being put into your food. So I was kind of receiving that awareness with myself as well. Like I'm just eating somebody else's bad day. It's, kind of what it felt like. So, just
Yeah.
being aware of
This is
like,
not cooked with love.
yes, exactly. And that's my main ingredient in all of the food that I make is
Yeah,
love and care. So,
yeah,
and I think my body is receiving that love, through the things that I cook too.
yeah. That makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So also I was wondering like how do you maintain your energy in these high stress situations? I know you said like sometimes you like tune into the news and then you're like, okay, that's enough awareness. I need to focus back in
Yeah,
the moment. And I feel like there is so many heavy things going on around, not just in our personal lives, but collectively worldwide. So there's lots of stress going around. So like, what are things that you like to do to kind of maintain your energy? From those high levels of stress.
yeah, I do think that like whenever like when I was watching some things on the news, and I was trying to be informed, I just noticed at some point that a lot of my energy was going there. And I think that it's when I started to begin that kind of like it's like I just reel myself back in. I'm like, okay, I'm losing myself in this. And for me, that's like a huge like nudge to go in a different direction anytime that I'm starting to lose myself. Like if I'm in a group of people and everybody's kind of like beginning to go around the circle and talk about all the health issues that they have, which, we've all been at family gatherings and that seems to be something that comes up sometimes, right? And it's like after a time with it, you begin to notice, that you're not really being yourself, or you begin to like shrink down your energy. For me, that's a huge sign that I need to shift something or remove myself from that situation, or look at something to change. So in my own personal life, anytime that I'm feeling like that my energy begins to feel contracted, I'm making myself small, I'm cutting myself off, I'm making something else or someone else more important than me, then that is a huge clue that I need to adjust something. And as far as like how to adjust it, I really just ask my body, what's it going to take to change this thing? Sometimes it'll be like a particular person that I need to go see. Sometimes it's particular modality. Other times it's just like putting my feet up against the wall. Like, if you scoot your butt up to the wall and then put your feet up on the wall. There's something about like, for me, just like having my feet up and then like taking a few deep breaths and like putting my hand on my chest. And then I'm just kind of like, it just helps me to root down and just really be present. I think that being outside in nature, one of my favorite places to hang out is just in the sunlight and hanging out on my hammock, listening to the birds sing. There's just something about being connected with nature that for me, I just find shifts everything. I mean, I've also noticed over time that I just kind of make a list of all the things that really contribute to making me feel better, whether it's, music, or whether it's a certain place that I like to go, a food that I enjoy, things that are comforting, things that uplift my frequency or mood. And anytime that I feel like I'm in a funk or I need to shift things, I just kind of come back to that and look at what can I choose here to change this. So it really kind of does come back to that awareness and presence, and then being in the question of what is it that's going to change this thing in particular, because sometimes it might be putting my feet up on a wall, and sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes a lot more is required. So, but if you're not in the question, or if you're not even aware of it, you're just going to keep on going on with the status quo. And that definitely, for me, no longer works in my life.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, I know that I don't want to hold you, because I know that you have more with your day, and I know that your fast is coming to an end.
Yes.
So
I finally get to eat.
I have so many questions. I've wanted to ask you about Sedona and about your your sound healing that you and your husband have stepped into, and just like a lot of the unique things that you've had coming through. And I don't know, like, I guess out of all of that, is there anything that you feel called to speak on in this moment?
Um, my husband and I, we have always loved music. That actually, our love of music and concerts and kind of being in that kind of energy is kind of what connected us from the very beginning. Um, and so getting, I was certified as like a sound healer and all of that. And my husband is very natural with instruments. He's actually never been formally taught how to play anything. And when I met him, he can like play the electric guitar, like shredding on it, not just like playing like hot cross buns. Like, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, you taught yourself how to do this? Like that, it was just like so amazing to me. And so little by little, I've been, kind of like, hey, you should try to play these bowls, or hey, you should get this flute while we were in Sedona. And he's taught himself how to play so many different things. The drums as well. And I feel like that's just been part of like our journey together, is finding like sound and energy and vibration and how that can shift your body and your mind and your spirit, bringing all of those things together. And then how can we offer that to more people than just ourselves? Because me and him, we just kind of play music together here just for fun. And then it was like, we could kind of like bring this out to a greater community, add a little bit more layers onto it, bringing energy work, bringing meditation in, and all of that stuff. And also having someone that is so completely talented in that musical sense, to bring him along in it with me, so we can have that balance, like masculine and feminine energy kind of coming through the room and the space. And I've been really excited to see all of the opportunities that I've received for us to offer our sound journeys. At first, we were just offering them for free for the community, just because I was so excited, wanting to share the love of sound and frequency and energy with anyone that I could. And also, like, it's bringing a little bit of peace on earth in these moments, and bringing these souls together. And, I don't care if I'm getting paid. I just wanted to be able to facilitate something like that for the community. And then I was offered more recently, at the beginning of this year, paid sessions through Parks and Rec, which has been such an awesome opportunity, because now we have a big room. We don't have to worry about the weather and the outside effects of things. I've been able to pull my husband in a little bit more each journey that we have. And it's just been something that's been really, truly special to me. I feel like music has been interweaved thread in my whole life tapestry. And so just kind of allowing others to now experience that like love and harmony that we kind of bring through the instruments as well. So yeah, it's just been very exciting.
I love that. There was a sound healing session that I came to one time. I think it was one of the first ones that you began, and I just, the dynamic that you guys have of like, and the support that he was bringing to the table of like helping you get it all set up, and he's like making sure your microphone was set and everything. It was just so cool, and I really enjoy seeing some of the paintings that you guys create together and things like that. It just, for me, honestly, it is inspiring of like, sometimes we don't get a whole lot of like feedback on like, here's what you can do to have a healthy relationship as we grow up.
Yeah.
And so just to see some of the things that you guys choose in order to create a healthy relationship, and one that works for you guys, has really been inspiring for me. And I've gotten a lot of really cool ideas from you on some of the things that you guys create together, as far as like where you go on dates and things like that. So I think it's something that you have, that you're just naturally being, and just by you naturally being it and sharing it, it creates something, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for stepping into this unknown territory. I really appreciate it. And I am just, I don't know, like what would it take to have more authentic, conversations where we can just show up and be a little bit messy and say, and I don't know, just be like real people and have conversations and just open doors to something different, you know. I wonder what else we can create that will create the kind of future that we desire.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's just bringing us back to the present moment of, out of the overwhelm and out of the, theories of like, this is going to happen or this fear thing is going to happen. But then it's like sometimes just bringing yourself back and being like, you know what, I'm safe in my house with my pets and my, my warm blankets and my food and, just like allowing yourself to know that you're safe in that moment and what your body and what your mind and your spirit need in that moment as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I mean it sometimes we can get caught up in the projections and the expectations and how we should show up that it freaks us out so much that we don't even show up. And I don't know, like, to move beyond that, I know is a stepping stone for me, and I am just grateful to have the possibility and opportunity to move through some of that awkward energy with it into something different, and I just, the more that we can just be ourselves and that's enough and that's okay. I think that that's a beautiful foundation for the future. So I want more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Monika, thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Oh, thank you.